Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'd like to look at every single tribe to see how they'd fare in an all-out war. This is to see which tribe would be the very best in terms of attacking and defending territory. Hopefully this will help reveal who will win in a continental conquest. Unfortunately, we won't be including the tribes in Arc 3. They'll be their own separate scenario, and I have something special planned for them. For this analysis, we'll be looking at each tribe, focusing on their natural strengths and abilities. We're also removing any and all forms of Animus magic. No Animus touch objects exist, no new spells can be cast, and curses applied to dragons are gone. Let's start with the Mudwings. From the novels, we know that Mudwings are omnivorous dragons who can breathe fire. Their fire-breathing ability can only manifest once they've reached the right temperature. According to the novels, Mudwings are also capable of healing by submerging their affected wound with mud. As far as I know, other tribes require healing salves in order to treat their wounds. The Mudwings just have to use mud and they'll be back in combat again in no time. Along with their natural healing abilities, the Mudwings are capable of withstanding several blows to their body. The sturdiness of their bodies is documented in the Nightwing Guide to the Dragons of Pyria. The Mudwing body must have been so tough that the Nightwings deemed it as a strength. In fact, if other dragons were as sturdy as Mudwings, the Nightwings probably wouldn't mention their physical endurance. To top it all off, the Mudwings can spawn blood-red eggs. The dragons born out of these eggs are fireproof. Although they are rare in most Mudwing nests, having dragons invulnerable to fire means that the Mudwings can counter 3 dragon tribes. That's half the continent already. Having fire-resistant dragons to protect those without that luxury, and naturally being tough, means that the Mudwings have the highest survivability in a battle. One other notable feature about Mudwings is that they can breathe underwater for about an hour. In the books, we've only seen Clay do this under the mountain and when he was arriving at the Summer Palace. Other than that, it's not exactly the most useful ability, especially when fighting against a tribe who can breathe underwater indefinitely. Now on to the Sandwings. According to the guidebook released in 2023, Sandwings can eat light snacks like rodents and cacti. This proves that Sandwings are usually omnivorous. Like Mudwings, Sandwings are also capable of breathing fire. The only difference is that Sandwings do not need to be at a specific temperature to use it. Another natural weapon they possess is a poisonous tail barb. Similar to a scorpion, a Sandwing can sting other dragons with their tail. Unlike an actual scorpion, Sandwings are capable of injecting a deadly venom into their foes by stabbing their tail into them. In terms of survivability, Sandwings can survive for long periods without water. This is incredibly useful when they're fighting in deserts without any drinkable water. This could also be useful during battles where supply lines are limited. In terms of diet, most Sandwings prefer to eat light. That means in garrison and on standby, Sandwings can ration their meals effectively. In a war where multiple supply lines could spontaneously go down, rationing and eating light would be an advantageous adaptation. Other than that, we don't know much else about Sandwings and their combat proficiencies. How about the Skywings? We learn very little about the Skywings when we look at the novels. In the Nightwing Guide to the Dragons of Pyria, all we know is that the Skywings are competent fighters. The guide also suggests that they're the fastest flyers on the continent with their large wings. If we're going off the logic that we use for the Mudwings, we can assume that the Skywings deal quick blows to their opponents in order to eliminate them. The Nightwings must have observed the battle training from a distance and reported their fighting ability. Including their fighting ferocity in the guide leads me to believe that they are the most aggressive dragons on the continent. In terms of defense, the guide doesn't reveal much about their survivability. The guidebook, however, does reveal something about their strength and durability. The guidebook states that the Skywings participate in a Clash of Claws tournament, where there are 7 challenges. 2 out of these 7 challenges are relevant to strength. The test of endurance challenges Skywings to reach a tall mountain to retrieve a token. This is supposed to test the dragon's ability to withstand low temperatures while being the quickest to grab their token. Additionally, the test of strength challenges a Skywing to carry a large rock and throw it a far distance. Whoever throws the rock the furthest wins. I'm highly unsure how heavy rocks are for dragons, but I imagine they grab the densest rock and throw it quite far. As a result, the Skywings are strong, but probably not as sturdy as the Mudwings. In addition, some of them could endure cold temperatures, equivalent to the frozen lands of the Icewind Kingdom. This means that Skywings who have adapted to the cold temperatures could be on the western front, battling the Icewings. Next up is the Seawings. Most known for living underwater, the Seawings are one of the tribes who cannot breathe fire. The Seawings have adapted to mostly eat fish and sometimes seabirds. As far as I know, Seawings don't eat red meat, which could be detrimental when they move more inland to conquer more territory. Maybe the Seawings could arrange salted fish so they can be preserved. Alternatively, the Seawings can launch naval attacks from the coast so they are able to stay in comfortable camps and attack unexpectedly. We are given very little information about their fighting prowess. We do know that the Sea Wings had to develop their own weapons because they lack natural weapons themselves. Now, this would be a big deal if other tribes didn't have artificial or unique weapons of their own. As the Sea Wings, I imagine the best way to win the war would be through blitzkrieg. For each territory they need to take, the Sea Wings would attack from the shorelines and attack their enemies quickly and ferociously. I can see this working to a degree. The only real foe they would face is the Sky Wings, who would most likely repel the attacks with their superior flight speed. Skywing scouts can easily relay the attack to garrison troops, and before the Sea Wings can take anything, the Sky Wings would counterattack. In terms of self-defense, the Sea Wings do possess one thing that gives them a tactical advantage. Sea Wings have scales which can light up. Although this is mainly used to communicate underwater, we have seen a case where this has been used as a deterrent. In Tsunami's book, The Lost Heir, she uses her flashing scales to blind her opponent when someone attempts to capture her. The intensity of the light would make for an effective blinding effect against their foes. Now let's see the Rain Wings. The Night Wings downplayed the Rain Wings really hard in their guides. In the updated guide made by Starflight, we find out that the Rain Wings have a couple of capabilities fit for combat. Before we get to that though, let's look at their diet. The guide suggests that the Rain Wings are purely vegetarian, meaning that they only eat fruits and vegetables. Usually they gain their nutrients from the plants around them in the rainforest. In a conquest war though, this could be an issue. Having supply lines coming from all the way into the rainforest could be a detriment. If these supply lines break, then Rain Wings would have to try their best to scavenge food for themselves. The Rain Wings have one of the strongest offensive capabilities, tied with another tribe. Starflight's guide tells us that the Rain Wings can spit deadly venom from their fangs. We've seen the severity of Rain Wing venom many times in the first arc. When it comes in contact with organic matter, such as plants or dragons, they melt effortlessly. We've seen this happen to many dragons with varying effects. In the Dragonette Prophecy, we saw Fjord be killed instantly when the venom came into contact with his scales and eyes. However, in The Brightest Night, we saw Queen Scarlet survive Glory's venom attacks in Book 1. This was probably because Glory did not hit any soft tissue or her eyes. It still looked incredibly painful, especially in the Hidden Kingdom when Kinkajou was hit by venom. One extremely good aspect about Rainwing venom is that they have a cure. This cure can be administered by the Rainwings themselves by choice, so it can be used for violent interrogation if needed. Rainwings are also equipped with one defensive capability. As many of you know, Rainwings have access to color-changing scales. These scales usually show motion of a Rainwing, but can also be used to blend into the environment. Having a natural camouflage is extremely helpful for guerrilla tactics, and we've seen this already happen in the books. In Book 4, Glory militarized the Rainwings to recover some captured dragons. The entire tribe used their camouflage to infiltrate the Nightwing Kingdom undetected. This makes the Rainwings a very tough competitor to beat. Second last are the Icewings. These silvery dragons eat quite a lot of fish and bears because of their habitat. It doesn't say anything about eating fruits, which led me to believe that the dragons were purely carnivorous. However, in the guidebook released in 2023, we get an in-depth look of what Boros eat. It turns out that Icewings also eat salads and fruits, so Icewings are actually omnivorous. Subsequently, these dragons shouldn't have a problem with food limitations. This also includes their supply lines. Supply lines leading from the Icewing Kingdom would be highly advantageous. As far as we know, if you aren't an Icewing, you can't withstand the cold of the Icewing Kingdom. Staying there for long periods of time could get you killed from the weather, so Icewings don't need to worry about disturbed supply lines when they're in their territory. In terms of offensive tactics, the Icewings are well known for their Ice Breath. Direct contact with Icewing Breath is deadly. Even when Ice Breath lightly hits a dragon, it can still cause some significant damage, as seen in the Dragonette Prophecy. Although Clay had been lightly hit by Frost Breath, he still required medical attention. Keep in mind that Mudwings are incredibly strong, so Clay sustaining injuries like this makes me worry for the other tribes. The Nightwing Guide also talks about Icewings having whip-like tails, which is a very useful close combat weapon. Having that with their sharp icy claws means that they can cover the rear, which is useful against uneven numbers. We've touched on the Icewings' defensive capabilities. Because they can withstand sub-zero temperatures, Icewings can roam freely. Icewings can choose to attack the Skywings from the mountains, or dive straight into the ocean to attack the Seawings. I imagine that the only caveat would be not being able to endure extreme heat. We have seen instances in which Icewings cannot cast their Ice Breath because their snouts were too hot. Look at a prologue of the Dragonette Prophecy. Vidar couldn't retaliate against his captors because they had a hot muzzle fixed around his mouth. This could infer that the Frost Breath cannot work in the Kingdom of Sand because of its extreme temperatures. Last but not least is the Nightwings. For this analysis, we're going to be putting the Nightwings in the old Nightwing Kingdom, so they're not sharing territory with the Rainwings. From the guide, we know that Nightwings are carnivorous, feeding off of carrion. However, with their limited time with the Rainwings, they're also able to eat rainforest fruit. Ultimately, this confirms that Nightwings are omnivorous. The Nightwings are also capable of breathing fire. Now, the Nightwings have no special appendages or secretions. However, we know that a select few have access to mind reading and foresight. Let's talk about foresight first. Although they are not meant to be used during combat, I can see some applications in which this can be helpful. As in Darkstalker Legends, we've seen seers use their power to predict incoming invasions, which is incredibly useful. The tribe can plan ahead to prevent the attack or to launch a counteroffensive. The only downside is that there are so few seers among the Nightwings, and their powers give very cryptic messages. These seers aren't like Clearsight. They cannot give a direct message, and the message must be deciphered. The Nightwings can be swept easily if they relied on foresight for battles. Even in active combat, seers cannot use their power because it would interrupt the flow of battle. This would most likely just get them killed rather than dodging a preemptive attack from an enemy. However, mind reading could be extremely useful in a defensive manner. As we know from Moon Rising, mind reading is instantaneous, unlike foresight. Active mind readers can avoid attacks in battle as long as they can control who they hear. Other than that, I don't know any further application of mind reading in a battle. In terms of interrogation, however, mind reading can be extremely useful. The Nightwings don't even have to talk to the dragon, they just need to hear any thoughts that could give them information. This is assuming that the dragon isn't lying when they're thinking about their battle plans. And those were all the tribes in Pyria. Here's a light summary. Now, based on this information, who do you think would win in a conquest war? I believe that Icewings and Rainwings would have the best chances of winning. Out of either of them though, I would personally vote for the Icewings. They were already a tribe capable of combat, while the Rainwings weren't actively defending their home from 3 potential invaders. The Rainwings would definitely put up a fight though if they were threatened. I believe that the military reform would need some work though. Subscribe for more Wings of Fire, and as always, thanks for listening.